Locals call it the Whispering Woods, a vast ancient forest in the Pacific Northwest where sunlight barely touches the mossy ground. The silence here is profound, broken only by the wind's sigh or a distant animal, as if the forest itself is whispering secrets. Modern life feels impossibly far away. Cell signals die, and the only road in is rough and lonely. People come seeking solitude, but the woods test them. Trails twist, weather shifts, and the sense of isolation grows. In the 1990s, Pine Ridge Campground became the center of a chilling mystery. Visitors vanished, leaving cars and gear behind, as if swallowed by the forest. Was it a hidden predator, or did the woods themselves claim those who wandered too far? The questions echo, unanswered, through the trees. Pine Ridge is marked not just by trails, but by the ghosts of those lost to its silence. Pine Ridge Campground was rustic and remote. 20 sites, no electricity, no ranger, just a hand pump and outhouses. To get there, you drove an hour down a rough dirt road, leaving civilization behind. In the 1990s, it drew seasoned hikers, fishermen, and families seeking true wilderness. The river was famous for trout, and trails led to hidden waterfalls and alpine lakes. Nights were silent except for the fire's crackle and the call of an owl. The stars blazed overhead. Campers prided themselves on self-sufficiency and respect for the wild. But the very isolation that made Pine Ridge a haven also made it dangerous. Help was far away, and the forest could hide anything. Campers arrived seeking adventure, unaware that for some, Pine Ridge would become a trap. The campground's constant presence was Thomas Reed, a volunteer host in his late 50s with a weathered face and intense eyes. He lived in a faded green trailer at the entrance, collecting fees and offering advice about trails and fishing. Reed was friendly, always brewing coffee, and seemed to know every inch of the woods. For many, he was a comforting figure. For others, his constant presence felt unsettling. He never left, always watching, rarely speaking of his past. Reed's helpfulness masked a deeper mystery. He was a man without a history, always there, always observing. He was the first to greet you and, for some, the last to see you. Behind his calm exterior, something was off, a secret that would only grow darker. At the entrance, a logbook sat beside the fee box. Campers signed in with names, plates, and expected departure dates. Thomas Reed was meticulous about arrivals, insisting everyone sign in before choosing a site. But the logbook's checkout column was always blank. Reed never tracked departures. When asked, he'd shrug. "No need for all that paperwork, as long as I know you're here." Forest Service supervisors rarely visited, glancing at the tidy arrivals and missing the glaring omission. The logbook became a one-way record, a list of people who entered but never officially left. In hindsight, it's chilling. A ledger of beginnings with no endings. Each name lingered, as if a part of every camper was meant to stay. The logbook told a story of arrivals, but never of goodbyes. The disappearances began quietly. In 1992, Klaus Richter, a German hiker, vanished. His car found at the trailhead, no trace in the woods. Authorities called it an accident. Reed remembered him as well prepared. The next year, the Harrisons, birdwatchers, disappeared. Truck and camper untouched, coffee cooling on the table. Reed said he'd seen them head out for a short hike. They never returned. In 1994, the Peterson family, parents and 2 children, vanished. Their minivan and tent left behind, wallets and purses untouched. Again, Reed was the last to see them, warning the father about the river trails. With each case, Reed was the common thread, always present, always helpful, always the last contact. He gave detailed, plausible accounts to police, expressing concern. But as the missing persons list grew, families began to wonder, was Reed just a witness, or something far more sinister? The forest was vast, but the connection to Reed was impossible to ignore. The disappearances formed a pattern, and Reed was at its center. The question haunted everyone. Was the friendly host a predator, or just another victim of the woods? As the disappearances made headlines, former campers shared unsettling stories about Thomas Reed. One couple recalled Reed urging them to stay another night, his insistence almost desperate. Another family found the exit road blocked by a log. Reed, axe in hand, claimed it had just fallen, urging them to stay. The father managed to move the log and leave, Reed watching with a cold stare. A solo hiker remembered Reed's odd intensity. "You could stay. You should stay." It felt less like an invitation, more like a command. These weren't threats, but a persistent pressure to remain. Reed's charm masked a possessive side. He didn't want people to leave. When his friendliness failed, something darker emerged. Those who left remembered his gaze, a chilling sense that staying might have meant never leaving. Years later, these stories painted a picture. Reed saw visitors as his to keep. His role as host blurred into something more controlling, more ominous. The line between protector and captor was disturbingly thin. For many, the memory of Reed's insistence was a warning they barely escaped. After the Petersons vanished, law enforcement finally focused on Pine Ridge and Thomas Reed. A task force searched Reed's trailer. No evidence, just a Spartan life. But in a drawer, they found maps with remote, hard-to-reach spots circled in red. Reed claimed they were places he'd explored, recommending them to experienced hikers. The explanation was plausible, but investigators were uneasy. Why mark such inaccessible places? Were they secret burial sites, or just Reed's private haunts? With no physical evidence, Reed remained a ghost. No past, no family, no connections. Under surveillance, he never slipped. His routine never changed. He continued hosting, greeting and wandering, secrets hidden in plain sight. The investigation stalled, the truth just out of reach. Surveillance on Reed continued into the fall, as the campground emptied and the woods grew cold. Detectives watched him perform his daily routines, unfazed by their presence. Then, one October morning, Reed was gone. Trailer door ajar, coffee cold, bed unmade. A massive search began, this time for Reed himself. K9 units and helicopters scoured the woods, focusing on the circled spots from his maps. Nothing was found. His scent vanished at the forest's edge. It was as if Reed had been swallowed by the woods he knew so well. His disappearance was the final twist. Was he a killer, fleeing justice, or another victim? Some believed he had a hidden escape. Others thought he'd chosen to vanish into the wilderness. The one man who might have held the answers was gone, leaving only more questions. The mystery deepened, the silence of the woods unbroken. The Pine Ridge mystery remains unsolved. The forest keeps its secrets. No trace of Reed or the missing campers has ever surfaced. No remains, no clues. The case files gather dust. Now ghost stories told around distant campfires. Was Reed a cunning predator, or another victim of something darker in the woods? Some say the forest itself is hostile, a place that swallows people whole. The old logbook is the only record, a list of arrivals, the departure column hauntingly blank. On paper, no one ever left Pine Ridge during Reed's tenure. they simply vanished, their names absorbed into the deep, unsettling silence of the woods.